Hi, good morning, everyone. Well, we are back for another homegrown lecture series. This is the last of the year. I can't even believe it. We just started, didn't we, in January? So if you've been watching the whole year, thank you very much. If you've come in part of the year, then thank you for that too. And I hope that you continue to stick with us and learn more going into 2023. Um, Talking about 2023, I do want to introduce the first quarter. We don't have the flyer up on the screen right now, but in January, Paul Winsky will be he'll be talking ground covers for the landscape. February is Shannon Dietz with backyard poultry fundamentals. And then in March, I'm going to tackle the top tea questions, tomatoes, turf, and trees. So that's our first 3 months. After that, we are going to be adding some new staff into the rotation. So you'll see some new faces and get some new topics. So we're looking forward to that. With you being here, it means that you get the newsletter. So look out for that newsletter, which should be going out pretty soon. And that is going to have our new our new flyer on it for 2023. And you do not have to sign up right before. You can sign up as far as, that's on that Eventbrite. So all right, that is information about the 2023 Homegrown Lecture Series. So we can go ahead and get started. Shannon is with me here today, and he'll be helping out. I'm Brandi Keller, the Harris County horticulture agent. There's 2 agents here. And I'm going to be talking about plantable holiday tree alternatives. And when I started getting into this, I realized that there's a whole lot of variation that I can be talking about. So we're going to go over some of those. So in general, I am going to initially talk about cut trees. That is an industry in the state, and there's nothing, not that there's anything wrong with that. And then what are those tree qualities? What's that difference between those qualities with a holiday tree that we're looking for a cut tree and then something that we actually want to plant? Then going into living trees, and under that, we're going to also include some natives and those novelty trees that you see. And then, of course, as always, we have the resources for you. All right, so I think Shannon has a link for you just with the history of the Christmas tree. So he'll go ahead and add that in for you. So we're essentially going to be covering these 3 broad topics. Cut trees, they are a renewable resource. They are, they are income. It is income for, property owners in Texas and, of course, outside Texas. We're going to talk about cut your own tree farms, which there are around Texas, and then I have some information directly around Houston. And then, of course, there's living Christmas trees. And with the living Christmas trees, that can even be broken up into a couple categories. Do you purchase a Christmas tree and bring it indoors just for Christmas, or do you just even leave it outside to begin with? So what I'm trying to remember the name of it, the USDA Agricultural Census. So that is done once every 5 years. The last one was done in 2017, so they are currently doing one right now. So hopefully we'll have updated information. But with that census, we were able to get a lot of really cool different information, and I'll talk about some of that in a minute. But as you see, what you're seeing here is, every every state really has, their own conditions for their particular, trees in that state. Looking at Colorado, it says spruce. That's because, they have really all of them. The Colorado, Norway, white spruce. So they have a lot of spruce options. Montana is a lot of the firs. I just said firs, but really they kind of have a good even distribution of firs, pine, and spruce, even some things we haven't heard about. Looking over at the West Coast, you see the noble Douglas fir that is common all along that West Coast. I kept pine up there for Nevada, but that was a little bit of a oddball because Southern Nevada does not grow anything. The northern parts of Nevada, it's even going to be pines that we're not even very familiar with. And then on the East Coast, and you know what, there's one name here, but it doesn't mean that there's not a group of trees that state really produces. So Fraser firs, really, that's, all up that East Coast. And even I have Canaan fir over Ohio, just because I thought that was a really different name to put up there. But they also do a lot of Fraser firs. And what's not on here is Hawaii. And that one is Norfolk Island pine. So this just kind of shows that, obviously, wherever you are, you have, trees that are going to be adapted to do well in that area. I do have a question for you. And Shannon's going to put the multiple choice options. My question is, what is your guess of what is the top Christmas tree? Which state is the top Christmas tree producer? You have the options Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Virginia, Oregon, and California. Now, Shannon's going to put those names in there, and so then you can just like the one that you choose. And then we're just going to give people time to finish that, and we'll come back to the slide in just a minute. All right, so going into really what are like the traditional holiday trees. You see that firs really dominate this list. Then you have the Douglas fir, which you can see by the Latin name that it is not actually a fir, and then a couple pines. I know, I'm from Ohio, so my favorite tried and true is Fraser fir. I just think it's beautiful. It's got really sturdy, limbs. Visually, I really love Colorado blue spruce, but the one year that we chose that, it was pretty painful. It's really sharp. So even though they're really beautiful, they're a little dangerous. And just so you know too, that there's a National Christmas Tree Association. So while you guys are still doing that, choosing which state is the top state, Shannon will put in the link for the National Christmas Tree Association. They essentially across the United States, between 25 and 30 million live trees are sold. And if you think about that, how crazy is that? Because that time frame of sales is probably within 4 weeks. It could even be the bulk of it, like within 3 weeks. So 25 to 30 million trees sold within just that time frame. So that's, that's just, that's pretty intense. So let me go back here and Shannon, do we have some guessers? What is the top state?
Hey, Brandi, yep, you have some guessers. So only, it looks like about 8 people, well, 9 now have answered, and we have 2 votes for Wisconsin, even though I spelled it wrong. I apologize about that. And then 7 votes for Oregon.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like there's some Christmas tree professionals with us. So Oregon is right. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of really good producers, but Oregon is the number one. See, I tried to trick you with just putting Washington State up there. All right. All right, let me see. We talked about all of this, and let's go straight to Texas trees. So, what are the trees that are used for Christmas that do well in, oops, I think I moved something. Okay, that do well in Texas. And so even though there's like a list of 5, Virginia pine, by and far, it exceeds all of them. It's just the easiest, the most common one. Even though there's 15,000 Christmas tree farms in the United States, there are 120 Texas farmers. And so, you got to grow what's easiest. With the Virginia pine, you have those, they do really well in acidic soil, but they're really adaptable too. It's a really great look, really good looking Christmas tree. It's real dense. It has that shape that we're looking for. So this is one that really is going to be more common to be able to cut your own trees in Texas. Going into Afghan pine, that's, going more out to west central Texas. The eastern red cedar does make a really good Christmas tree, but it's just not grown a lot at Christmas tree farms here. And then Leyland cypress. The Carolina sapphire, so that's an Arizona cypress. It's really just limited. So even though you may have some options at some of these farms, that's going to be the big one right there. So where are those farms around Houston? So I got this off of the Texas Christmas Tree Association, and there is another link that Shannon can, because if you can post, because if you're outside of this area, you can look around Texas. So you can see some of these different, farms kind of around the perimeter. I didn't put a comprehensive list of what these farms sold, but just to show you that there is a variety. That Huntsville Fraser firs, I think those would be obviously cut, so they get those from North Carolina. You can see they're growing some Leyland, Virginia pine. Some of them are offering pre-cut and cut your own. So if you didn't know that there were a lot of options with these traditional Christmas trees, there are. And again, this is part, we might not be a top producer. Actually, Texas is, I think, number 23 in Christmas trees, but it does add to our agricultural, I guess, profile. Okay, and then another aspect to consider, instead of just throwing your trees away, is to be sure that you recycle them. So this list, it's 2000. Well, it's at the beginning of the Christmas season, so I didn't find current year information, but you could probably easily find that. There's usually a curbside collection right after Christmas, and then some drop-offs. One of my big questions was, well, what happens to those trees, So in our area around Houston, actually a lot of those at any of the drop-offs and the curbside, they're going to be mulch. It's going to be shredded and turned into mulch. But it really depends where you are. If you're down by Galveston, or if you're in another area, you're along the coast, collecting those old Christmas trees can go towards, projects, either reestablishing dunes, because that sand can really collect and And then by the time the tree kind of disintegrates a little bit, some of those plants would have gotten established. There are places that have been impacted by hurricanes that they'll collect the Christmas trees, kind of wrap them all up to try to trap the sand, put them out, and just create more of a barrier. Some of them are helping with coastal marshes or even just habitat for fish. That's the one that comes to mind. I guess that maybe that's what they did, up north. So I always think of that. It is, Christmas trees are, it is a renewable source. So I'm not trying, I wanted to provide some of those options for you before we get into the live Christmas trees. All right, so the qualities, obviously we're all looking for certain qualities when it comes to a Christmas tree. These right here, I consider more just traditional, towards the traditional. For the size, it seems like, we don't want something too small or something too big. We want it exactly the size of the height of our of our space sometimes. The shape, we want that perfect Christmas tree shape, that pyramid. The needles that I talked about earlier should be strong enough to hold all the things that you put on there, but not too strong that it hurts a little. Scent, it never hurts to have a great scent. Some of the trees have are a little bit more scented than others. And then going in with shape would be fullness. So this is starting now. Most of these pictures I've taken, so this one is in Ohio. That's my brother down there on the ground sawing the Christmas tree down. So, with that traditional Christmas tree, you just have this, you just have these, an idea in mind. And we had some really great options up there. But when you go towards plantable trees, some of those expectations that you had, really, you need to be able to manage those expectations and just compromise, really, because, you're not going to you're not going to get it all. So number one, you want to check with health. You want to be sure what you're looking at looks nice and healthy. The size, this is going to be, generally, you're going to choose smaller plants. If you're taking them inside, you definitely want them smaller, maybe 3 to 15 gallon pots, nothing more, or else it's just going to really be, too heavy for you. So we definitely compromise on size. Shape, depending on what you're looking for, you can find something pyramidal, but that's also going to be a compromise. Sometimes, if we like to bring a plantable tree inside, it's not going to have that perfect shape. And then that's going to go into fullness also. So, just manage those expectations. And then the other thing that we want to look at is that plant native to the area, or has it been adapted and that it will do well in the area? All right, so planting living holiday trees. So I'm kind of interchanging holiday and Christmas because, generally they're Christmas trees, but more and more, anyone can have a holiday tree. It's, it's fun and there's so many great ornaments. Personally, my Christmas tree tends to be a piece of artwork every year because I take a lot of pride in the ornaments that I choose for it and that I buy over the years. All right, so here we go, going straight into some of these trees and shrubs that I have found. Again, most of these pictures I've taken locally at the nursery, so that means that You might not find them at your nursery, but they are being sold. I know between a couple different nurseries, one, they basically took out all their trees and shrubs to make room for Christmas trees. And then the other one, they did have designated areas where they were selling what I would consider plantable Christmas trees. So like this one, the green columnar Hetsii, it just has that pyramidal shape with no effort. It's really green, it's fast growing, and the size is pretty manageable. Full sun, well drained. Now I say well drained soil here. It really goes for basically all of these plants, but especially the first group. Once this is established, it is fairly drought tolerant. It does just touch our zone in zone 9, but there can be some issues with junipers, with some disease. So, it's not totally problem free. Leyland cypress, this one was on the list for growing in Texas for trees. This again, you see, is a very natural shape, the pyramidal, maybe a little bit more carefree. It kind of has that bluish green look, but you can see by those, just those shapes that the form of the foliage coming out, that there's not a lot to work with when it comes to ornaments. That's one of the reasons on the right, those are my fingers right there, just to show like how easily, that was pulled down. So that would not take any, any heavy ornaments. They do tend to be lower maintenance. And with these, you can really shape them more. If you want a little bit more of a tighter form, it's good to start that pruning young. Just don't want to go crazy, because that it's kind of like their natural shape. If you buy this to bring it in the house, be sure that it's not there very long and you do not let it dry out. These roots do not like to dry out, and once they're planted, they have a really short, did I say the right word, short? They have a shallow, they have a really shallow root system. So you want to plant that well before summer, so those roots can be, get some kind of establishment before just, the crazy temperatures affect it. When it comes to wildlife, this and even the last one, no, it probably doesn't support a lot of wildlife, but any of these evergreens, they're going to be good for shelter, cover, nests. So, in some sense, you can't say that they do not support wildlife. Interestingly, you can't say this one's native, but this is actually a hybrid between a cypress and a cedar that grows very northwest. And so this is actually a hybrid between the two. So it technically is not native anywhere. It's just, is it actually adapted? And it has adapted, kind of all right here. Obviously they sell them live and cut. But because of those shallow roots, you don't want to plant them too close together. Droughts can be a problem. With this last drought that we just had, I'd be curious to see how some of these are doing. So again, great looking tree, maybe, not perfect. I think in the end, none of them are going to be perfect. The podocarpus, I chose this one, and I looked around at a lot of different trees, and I was just trying to envision, decorations, ornaments, some garland. At least that's what I like to do. But this one is definitely a little bit more columnar, even though there are some different varieties. It says Japanese yew, but you can see by the Latin name that it is actually not a yew. My fingers are over here on the left again. So some of those branches are a little flimsy, probably not a great one for really heavy ornaments. And when they're young, they can be kind of delicate and break off, but as they age, they become more woody and they get stronger. So 45 feet technically, but I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen a 45-foot one around here. Not saying that it doesn't happen. Some of them grow to about 18 depending on the variety. It does did I put on here anything about, no. It does really like acidic soil, moist soil. That means it would like to be mulched a little bit. And again, maybe some cover for birds, but no great benefit to wildlife. Japanese holly, you can't really tell how big this one is. I was kind of looking straight at it, so the very tip is just below eye level. So, that would be dropped down another couple feet. This particular Japanese holly is really pyramidal. You can do some pruning to it. They can be maintained to a smaller size. You can see with that up close foliage. It wasn't as flimsy as a couple of the other ones. I mean, it's still, it's still no Fraser fir, but it could tolerate a little bit. Well drained, obviously. And just to give an idea too, I don't think I mentioned this, but for cut Christmas trees right now, this particular year, that price is going up anywhere from like 5 to 15%. Now, if they're being imported, it could be even more just because of transportation costs. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna, for a landscape plant, you're still gonna be paying something. This particular shrub, I think, was right around 170. So it's just to give you an idea, because we can love all these things that we see, but if they're not in our budget, then we can't use it. But just know that you're purchasing a quality landscape plant that you're going to have for a very long time. So that that kind of offsets, that justification a little bit. You know what, Shannon, are there any questions?
Brandi, no, not at this time.
Oh my gosh, I'm presenting a perfect presentation. I'm just joking. Oh, okay. Well, we did this one. This was another one I found that I just thought was a little bit a little bit more interesting. I don't have personal experience with it. Black dragon, Japanese cedar. They are a little bit irregular pyramid. It's a slower grower, likes acidic or even slightly fertile. So, adding that compost. You can see by the foliage that look, when it comes to ornaments, we can figure it out, right? even if they're not the strongest. And camellias, I had to add this one in here because number one, I've been a fan of camellias for a long time, and why not? Some of these camellias too really do look like they can be sheared and pruned and trained into a really great pyramid. So there are two types of camellias. The japonica blooms in the spring. It has bigger flowers, but less flowers. And then the Camellia sasanqua blooms in the fall, going into the winter here. And they're smaller flowers, but more plentiful. And then the size is a little bit different too. The sasanquas can be a little bit shorter. This particular one is Yuletide, and it's a good name, real bright red, and that really bright yellow center is really striking. There are a couple other Christmassy blooming ones. The other two are hybrids, Christmas Rose, which is a red, no yellow center like this. It almost doesn't register as a camellia. Although this doesn't either. I don't know. I always think kind of like this one looks kind of peony-ish, even though it's not. It doesn't look like it at all. And then Winter Star is a pink, like a light pink, with a yellow center also. But, you know, even if it wasn't the Sasanqua that's blooming right now, if you had, you know, a japonica that was large enough to be able to, you know, train into the shape that you're looking for, you know, as more like a traditional tree, that would, you know, that would still really work. These do like, what do I have on here? The organic acidic soil. So raised beds are, it's not that you can't have them, it's just that they may do a little bit better if they're in raised beds and you're able to work that soil, add organic material to it. All right, now we're kind of heading into kind-of-ish, not quite, into some native options, but we saw that this Carolina Sapphire was one of the options that Texas offers with their live Christmas trees. And you can see it's pretty small here. These are smaller options. It has a slightly pyramid shape. You can kind of see I don't know, it's a little loosey-goosey. You know, it looks like it'll move in the wind, kind of like the Leyland cypress. Definitely a loose shape. It really has a bluish green tint to it. Really no fruit or flowers, you know, that anything significant. And when it's a little bit older, the bark has kind of like a, you know, it tends to start to peel like with a, you know, red brown. Fairly low maintenance, prefers, it says dry average moisture, so it would get along well with sandy soils. Nativeness, this is really just a native, really in parts of Texas out towards Big Bend. You know, the East Texas, South Texas with all the humidity, you know, it doesn't tend to do as well. But, you know, my theory is, you know, plant it and see what happens, because who knows, right? Now, the pollen on these can affect people with allergies. So as someone with, you know, that has some outdoor allergies, I thought I'd pass that along. But these are common at most nurseries, grown really small, you know, being sold as holiday decorations. So we're really headed into some natives right here. The birds that I have on these following slides really just kind of reinforces the fact that it supports, you know, the local wildlife. So foster holly technically is not native, although it does, you know, it has those berries that birds and wildlife love. It could grow a little bit taller. It generally has a conical shape. You can prune a little bit. It's always easier to prune things when they're younger and train them than, you know, go in and do it, you know, later on. You know, like a typical holly, you know, they're a little bit bigger leaves, a little bit spiny, but nothing dangerous like, what is it, the Nellie R. Stevens, which is, I don't know, it should be categorized as a weapon, even though they're so beautiful. You can see these are heavy fruiters. This picture on the right, I actually pulled from offline, but the one on the left was at a local nursery. You can see that, I don't know, that's probably a 15-gallon pot. So, you know, if you're going with a little bit bigger pot and you want it indoors, really, you know, maybe have some help or know that you can lift it. If it's going straight outdoors, then I guess that's not something you have to worry about. But look at those berries with that winter interest, just so beautiful. So females produce the berries on here. And I told you that it wasn't quite native because it's a hybrid between the American holly and Dahoon. I think it's the Dahoon. And all of these plants are clones. So, I mean, it cannot claim nativeness anywhere. But it does, it does provide some sustenance to wildlife. These can have some problems with spider mites, leaf spot, powdery mildew. It's possible, but the flowers are really inconspicuous, but they they support pollinators, and then of course the berries for birds and other animals too. Okay, is this? I skipped over. Okay, going into Yopon, this is probably my one plant that I'm kind of just showcasing. It has 3 whole slides for it. I don't know. I just kept coming back to this one. It has those berries right now when you're out and about. It's so beautiful. This is an example of compromising on your expectations of what your Christmas tree or holiday tree would look like, because it's not going to, be that perfect pyramid. It's not going to be full, but it has all these other awesome qualities. It can be multi-trunked or single trunk, especially, if it's been pruned up into a single trunk. I didn't have the height on here because there's so many different varieties, dwarf bush, weeping. It's very, very adaptable to soils. It's more native to the East Texas acidic soils, but it's very adaptable elsewhere. The females produce these berries, and of course those berries support everything that's on here. The Henry's elfin butterfly, it is a host plant for that caterpillar. And then with the birds, I think I read something with Florida Extension that they stated that there were they found 28 different bird species that utilize the Yopon holly, which I mean is just so cool. Now these pictures, these were at nurseries or out and about. There's a picture of the weeping. So here's just some examples for you, if you're just, need a little bit more guidance. Nana runs about 2 to 5 feet tall. The pendula, around 35 feet. This Pride of Houston is probably one of the more common varieties that cultivars you'll find. That is not one of the weeping. It's an upright one. But it's really resistant to pests, I'm making up words here, pests and disease. That one gets to about 18 feet. Columnar, there's a couple of different varieties. Scarlet's Peak, though, is, I cannot remember how tall that one went, but I bet that's the one that went to 35, probably like 25 to 35, even though I think that's a bit tall. Weeping, the weeping would be the pendula, and that can get up to 35. But again, I think that's when you look at the heights, it really depends on location. And I mean, while you can find one, if it's really old, typically you won't find them that tall. And then yellow, this Ario is 15 feet. So those can have those yellow berries. All right, this was the only plant I did the fun facts on. So I did the fun facts, I think, every December or something like that. The Latin name is Ilex vomitoria. It has the word vomit right in it. It's kind of notorious. I guess it's notorious for some being said that it makes people vomit, even though it technically doesn't. And I'll clarify. Number one, the berries are poisonous. berries of all hollies are poisonous. It has a substance called illicin, and is it fatal? No, it's going to probably cause digestive upset, and it's probably just a little bit more dangerous for young kids with that tummy upset, but it's not like it's going to be fatal. But it's the leaves and stems that have that caffeine content. Those leaves are dried first, and we are not, experts at this, and I'm definitely not saying you should go do it. There's other sources that you should, look into. But you would dry those leaves first, and then it basically creates like a black tea. And as this states, similar to the holly that makes that yerba mate in South America. And there are some local people too that work a lot with natives that have a lot of good information on Yaupon hollies. But so those are your fun facts. All right, going into some more natives, the possum haw holly, those are usually a little bit shorter, than 20 feet tall. They have these spring white flowers for pollinators, really great dark leaves. Because it's deciduous, those leaves will fall late winter. And then what's left are these beautiful berries that can be like red, orange. One cultivar is called Warren's Red, and that cultivar is an all-female cultivar. So you'll get berries. It is a heavy bloomer. I don't know. I really considered some of these trees, and I threw Texas olive in here because number one, it's evergreen. It's a beautiful small tree. Those large leaves are real velvety, real green, kind of has a little bit of a gray, look to them a little bit. But they have those, they're trumpet flowers, even though when you're looking straight on, it doesn't look real trumpety. So the hummingbirds like them, the pollinators. It is a slower grower. It likes to be a little bit on the dry side. So, in our area, when, we're going through some drought, they're okay. It is native. Both of these are native. So I don't know. I looked at it and I thought, you know what, for a smaller tree, that's pretty new. I don't know. I think that would make a really great Christmas tree outdoors. And the possum haw was actually, I talked to a couple of nurseries, and people do tend to buy like the Yaupon holly and possum haws. They'll buy them for their holiday trees, but they never even go inside. They are meant to be outside and to really supply this food source to wildlife. So it's kind of like having a Christmas tree, but given back. And a couple more. This is going to close out this section. I don't know. I kind of looked over wax myrtle a few times. I lived in Virginia for a time, and wax myrtles are everywhere. But I kept coming back to it. And as you can see, what qualifies as, might be a plantable Christmas tree, it's really subjective. We try to consider a few of those things from the beginning, but it is subjective. Number one, it's evergreen. It can be trained up into a tree. It has that male female with the beautiful berries, greenish white berries, and I don't know. It supports the wildlife. You can grow them a little bit taller. There is a dwarf that's like 3 to 4. I think this also would make a really good, alternative. And then Texas sage. This one, again, I kept coming back to because of that color, like that gray-green color. I don't, with not a lot of snow here, I guess that was the allure, but also that it stays evergreen, that, you will get periodic blooms throughout the winter. So I think that's a really good option too. They all, really help pollinators. So. All right, Shannon, any questions before I head into the end?
No, ma'am.
All right. Let's see. All right, so this slide was initially called novelty trees. And then look, I did what was obvious. Why call it novelty trees? They're novel trees. Oh my gosh. I hope you're laughing at home because I got a really good big kick out of it. Oh, that's good. See, I didn't have any jokes interspersed in this one, so that was our joke. So you're welcome. And you can go forth and use that and chuckle to other people you tell it to. So yeah, there are a lot of just small trees being sold as decorations right now. Do they do well here? Essentially, kind of no. I threw the rosemary in there. That's an exception. We'll talk about that in a minute. The stone pine, very Christmas tree look. It's technically in our zone, but it doesn't like clay soils. It can, be affected by, cold weather. Maybe if you had it in a pot and you just grew it in a pot and then you're able to bring it in. But again, you can plant these and see what happens, but typically, no, they're not going to do real well in our area. The same for this lemon cypress. Those are this particular one they put in as a combination pot with the cyclamen and the pansies. It looked really cute. Really bright looking color in a lemon scent, but not the best for our area. And our area being around Harris County, the Texas Gulf Coast. And then this this was weird. They call it Euro cypress, but it had this different name, and I guess the cultivar is Elwood. They like the cold. They don't like clay soil, so they're cute. Probably won't be great landscape trees. And the rosemary is definitely not a tree, but I added it because it's in with all these holiday kind of trees. And of course, this does really well where we are. It's not going to grow up as a tree. It's not going to really, the bees definitely like it when it blooms. But this you can definitely grow outside. And, if you wanted a mini Christmas tree shape, I think that would work. And I think Shannon has a link for 2 years ago. I did Making Holiday Plants Last. If you want to take a look at that, I go a little bit more in depth in the rosemary. And then I also go into depth with this Norfolk Island pine that I had the very first slide. So you can learn a little bit more about that. That is our YouTube page for previous talks, but that link goes directly to that one. So this was our Christmas tree last year. We were not at home. We were along the coast, and they had this Norfolk Island pine, and I was all over it. I'm like, heck yeah. And look, it holds my ornaments. I brought those ornaments too. Look, and I bought some of them. Oh, and there's Elvis on there. Oh, yes. But the Norfolk Island pine, I mean, really great, really cool tree. It has, just everything about how the branches come out. It doesn't do the best in our area, but with that said, I will say that people down around Galveston have grown them, 20 feet tall. Some have gotten around 20 feet tall around Houston, but you have to get in this pocket, really good luck pocket of no harsh winters. And I have not looked into it. I'm wondering if that winter storm Uri, I'm wondering if that just killed them all. So long term, maybe not, but definitely they're plentiful, they're cute, and it served as a really great indoor Christmas tree. Look at that. All my great ornaments. Okay, so after holiday care, number one, have a planting plan. Are you going to take it indoors? Are you going to plant it immediately outside? And where is it going to go? And, does it fit, do you have the space for it? Double check that it grows in your area, that it's native or adapted, pardon me, or if it's adapted and can grow long term if that's what you're looking. If you are taking it indoors, so this is acclimate to lower. So yeah, if it's going straight from the nursery and you want it indoors, you may just try to take a couple of days going in slowly into a little bit lower light, and then put it by a window. Be sure you have as much light as possible by a window. And then for a shorter amount of time, I'm greedy with my Christmas trees. I like it, well after January. And, we can't be greedy with these, we have to compromise. So, 1 to 2 weeks at the most. That's if you're watering properly and it's still getting, some good indoor light. But, if you're planting outside again, all you have to worry about is proper planting. And then the last is keeping the tree watered. So here are, I think, most of the links. I did add the Native Plant Society, and this one went straight to the Houston chapter, if you were looking for, some native options. But when you go out to those garden centers, especially small family-owned nurseries, that has been their life for generations. So they are an excellent source of, of information. So, you can talk to them and, they may have things, kind of like those novelty plants, just talk with them just to be sure that you're purchasing something for what your specific needs, what you're looking for it. And then my next talk is in March 2nd. Top 3 tea questions: turf, tomato, and what's the other one? Trees. Trees right there. All right. Any questions? No questions? Not even one?
No questions today, unless they have any for last minute. I've asked, and it's been quiet in the room.
Well, let me see. I'm just double checking. Yeah. All right. So look, if you guys have any questions afterwards, you know how to get in touch with me. I hope you have a really great month going into the new year. We look forward to starting. Shannon, is this going to be, this can't be our 4th year. Is this going to be our 4th homegrown year?
I think 3rd going into 4th. Yeah, kind of in that transition.
Wow, that's crazy. So I was just having some denial there. So yeah, we really look forward to it. And hey, have a great holiday season. And we'll see you in 2023. And don't forget, we do those. We'll send out the link to the video, and then the survey link, and that really helps provide really good feedback. All right, thank you so much, and see you next year.